Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver on a 2024 Hyundai Palisade. It's a really nice design because it's a hidden cross tube, which means the only thing that you're going to see visible when installed is going to be your 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, while the rest of it hides behind the fascia, giving you a nice clean look. This size is going to allow you to get a ton of different options when it comes to bike racks, cargo carriers, or ball mounts. And any of those accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. Now, it does not come with the hitch. A lot of times when you pick up your accessories, they'll have a pin and clip included. But if you want to keep your accessories loaded on your vehicle and not have to worry about people walking away with your accessories, you can pick up a locking version of these pin and clips here at eTrailer, which is a little bit more peace of mind. We have a rolled style safety chain loop here, which is going to be great if you plan on towing a trailer to be able to hook up your safety chains, whether it be a standard S hook or even a larger clevis style, goes on here with no problem. Now, speaking of towing, this does have some pretty good weight capacities. Your gross trailer weight rating out the gate is going to be 5,000 pounds, which is going to be the weight of the trailer plus the accessories loaded onto it. You also have a tongue weight rating of 750 pounds, and that's going to be your suspended weight, or the weight that's putting down on the inside of the receiver tube opening, so your bike racks and cargo carriers. Now, this can be used with a weight distribution hitch, and that's going to bump that gross trailer weight rating up by 1,000 pounds, making it 6,000 for your gross trailer weight rating. Your tongue weight's going to stay the same at 750 pounds. Now, before you hook up to a trailer and just start towing, you do want to check the vehicle's owner's manual to see what it's capable of towing, and also compare that with any components that you may have as far as ball mounts, just before hooking up. You want to take the lowest of all those numbers to make sure that you stay safe. Some of your folding accessories like cargo carriers or bike racks in a stowed position, you want to make sure it's not going to make contact with the rear fascia. This, from the center hitch pin hole to the furthest point of the rear fascia, is coming in at 4 inches. So you should be able to clear that pretty well in that stowed vertical position. But keep in mind, you're probably not going to be able to open your hatch at that point. Now, as far as ground clearance goes, this is going to be important not only for choosing accessories to make sure they don't bottom out, but mostly for a ball mount. Coming in at 14.5 inches, that's the measurement you'll take when measuring against your coupler. And you can determine the difference between your coupler height and that ground clearance measurement and get that rise or drop to make sure that your trailer is nice and level while towing. As far as installation goes, this one's actually pretty easy. You are going to need to lower down your spare tire, remove a plastic panel, and also lower down your exhaust, which seems like a lot, but overall this is a pretty easy one to do. Some of the bolts get a little bit tight, just as tolerances on the chassis to get those bolts through can get a little tricky, but I'll show you how to do it, and I'll walk you through all the steps to make sure you get your hitch installed. Let's take a look at that. First step to installation is going to be lowering down our spare tire, and that's going to give us enough space for us to get our hitch in and also work underneath. So if you've never lowered down your spare tire on your Palisade, it's pretty easy. Just open up your hatch and your rear cargo area, and that's going to give us access to this plastic cover. You'll see spare tire here. We'll just loosen this up. And then, using the tools in your toolkit from your vehicle, you can take this lug nut socket here and get this loosened up. Now, there is an extension here, so if you need to, you can put that on here and give you all the clearance you need. Underneath on the driver's side, we have this plastic panel. We're going to get this taken out, and it's got a series of plastic push pins as well as some 14mm plastic nuts. And on plastic push pins, there's going to be slots here that you can use a trim panel tool like I have here, or even a flathead screwdriver to get these removed. Now, this will go up eventually once we have our hitch installed, so you can set this aside. You might want to have a nice organized spot for your hardware. So the 3 plastic push pins, and then those 14mm plastic nuts, they come off pretty easy. Sometimes you can do them by hand, but you do want to pull down a little bit to kind of keep that tension drawing back. Otherwise, it'll just kind of keep spinning on that stud. Now we need to lower down our muffler, and while we do this, it's going to want to hang down, and that can put stress upstream on the exhaust. So what you need to do is support it, and you can use a block of wood or cardboard box if you're doing this on your driveway or garage, just to make sure that this isn't free hanging. Since I'm on a lift, I'm going to be using a cam buckle strap just to kind of create a cradle. And your isolators are pretty easy to get off. Sometimes they'll kind of seize up on the metal, and if you need to kind of lubricate it and get it moving, a soapy water solution works really well. This one's easy with a pry bar or a long flathead screwdriver. Just kind of use the muffler as leverage. So we have one here. There's one tucked back on the back side of the muffler. And these are pretty durable here. Don't worry too much that you're gonna rip it. Just pry that off, and if you need to, sometimes you can move the muffler to get a little bit more leverage to get that to pop off. So with that popped out, obviously we have our cradle working here. Just be careful when that exhaust drops down. You want to make sure that the hardware is going to be easily hand tightened in to support it. Now with weld nuts, sometimes these can get corrosion and rust built up in them. If you need to knock that down, what you want to do is take the bolt that's going to thread in there from your kit and make sure that it passes easy. If it's fighting you, you can use a little bit of penetrating oil, spray that in there, and we have a tube brush that kind of cleans this out. Generally, if you get some penetrating oil and run this up and down a few times, that should be enough to knock it loose. Go over the muffler and align our brackets on the frame rail, and then we're going to use our smaller bolts with the conical tooth washer. Make sure those teeth are biting into the hitch, and you're just going to want to get a few threads started on each side to support this and making the rest of the hardware go in a lot easier. We'll get the remaining ones that go into our weld nuts started as well. Grab our long bolts, and we're going to again put the conical tooth washers in the same orientation we did for our smaller bolts, having those teeth bite into the metal. And these are going to slide from the inside of the frame rail towards the outside. So you'll get this to pass through. You may have to kind of lift the hitch up a little bit. There's this clip here. Sometimes what you can do is take your washer and slide it down towards the threads, but you can see sometimes this gets in the way. So if you need to, you can pry this back a little bit to get this head to draw through all the way. I'm just going to use my pry bar just enough to kind of get this out of the way. Now you can cut this, that's up to you. But really just enough wiggle room to where we can kind of get this started and get it like that. And on the other side, there's a heat shield that kind of gets in the way as well. Similar concept, draw the washer in first, and that's going to make it a lot easier than having to fight it through. And you may need to take just like a dead blow hammer and a punch to kind of get these through, but just kind of work with it. And again, putting that washer up front before passing the bolt in definitely helps along. Once you get all four of those passed through, we'll take the other conical tooth washer and finish it up on the thread side, and then we'll just take our nut and get this hand tightened on. You can go ahead and do that for the remainder of your longer bolts. Using a 17mm socket, we're going to draw these bottom ones in those weld nuts first to kind of just snug this up. And that way it's drawn all the way up before tightening those others. So we're going to come back with a torque wrench. You don't need to get crazy here, but basically making sure that this is flush with that frame rail. Now to get our horizontal long bolts tightened down, we're going to use a 19mm wrench on the head of the bolt to hold that in place, and then a 21mm socket to tighten down the nut. They're all snugged down, but we need to make sure that they're properly torqued down using a torque wrench. Now, if you need a torque wrench, we have these available here at eTrailer. You can generally go to an auto parts store and rent one for free. Now, the torque settings are going to change from our smaller bolts to the larger ones, so just kind of keep that in mind. But this is going to make sure that long term, the hardware is tight enough for the lifespan of the hitch, not going to become loose, but also not too tight, putting unnecessary stress on our weld nuts. So get your bottom ones done first, and then change your torque setting, and you're going to need to use that wrench as well on that head of the bolt to get those torqued down. With all of the hardware torqued down properly, our hitch is officially installed. We need to just make sure we get our exhaust put back up and also our spare tire. In addition to your spare tire, make sure that you put this plastic cover back on. And that was a look and installation of the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver on a 2024 Hyundai Palisade.